meeting of the Town of Lincoln Council to order. Welcome everyone here this evening in the gallery and also watching us through the Cogeco feed. On my left, I have Councillor Paul McPherson, Councillor Diane Ranjima, and Councillor Wayne McMillan. On my right, Councillor Tony Brunet. At the far right, Councillor Lynn Timmers, Councillor Dave Thompson, and Councillor Rob Foster. Mr. William Kalasa, the clerk, is on my right, and on my left, Mike Kirkopoulos, the Chief Administrative Officer. And in the back row, we have Mr. Bob Spadoni, the Director of Finance, Mr. Asad Hussein, the Director of Sport, Recreation and Culture, Greg Hudson, who is our Fire Chief, and Bill Blake, the Deputy Chief. Welcome, everyone. Are there any declarations of interest? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that the minutes of the March 21st, 2016 regular meeting of Council, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted as circulated. Any questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you. Are there any items of note that you want to bring forward from those minutes? Very good. There being none, I have a short mayor's report this evening. So many things going on every week in the town hall and out. Just trying to hit on the high points. Ladies and gentlemen, today is Autism Awareness Day. You may or may not be aware of that. Some of us are wearing blue tonight to mark the occasion. And just as a couple of points of interest, because this is quite a burden for those who are diagnosed with this neurological disorder, but also for their families. And it is one of the most common developmental disabilities in Canada. 1 in 94 children is diagnosed with ASD. And there's a good deal of research that that's going on about this disease, because 1% of our Canadian population is affected by ASD, and that's a pretty significant number. So that would be about 100,000 Ontarians. So today we remember the families that are struggling with this disease. It does pay a toll, certainly, on society and on the families who have to deal with it. But mostly for those who live with it every day. Councillor Foster and I attended the Rotary Paul Harris Awards, where Tony Van Ness and Diane Bugis were acknowledged. And actually, it wasn't Councillor Foster that was there. He had to go to another meeting, but his wife was there. Sue was there. And then later on, I attended a luncheon with the CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, and Councillor Thompson with Honourable Brad Dogood. And I think, are you going to report on that tonight? I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that he was addressing, he's the Minister of Economic Development, Employment and Infrastructure. He was at the Greater Niagara Chamber, and he was talking about the economic development emphasis, the diversity of jobs and opportunities that we need to accommodate, innovative ideas that we needed to accommodate in Niagara, and certainly encouraged a deliberate move away from the status quo. And he had a particular emphasis on the retention of youth. And these are all themes that we've been talking about here at the Town of Lincoln. I attended the Outstanding Business Achievement Awards that were sponsored by the Chamber, and Councillor Foster and his wife Sue were there. And there were prizes won by Cosmic Plants, who are an orchid producer in Vineland, Blossom Bakery, which is located in Jordan Station, and Freeman Herbs, located in Beamsville. I would guess that it's probably one of the oldest greenhouse operations in this area. And also Sarah Holmes, who's a good friend to many of us, was recognized as a community leader that night, and that's a very high honor that's awarded by the Chamber. Last Friday, Mike Kirkopoulos and I met with the Wittig family. This is a family that are moving their business outdoor travel that you see along the Queen Elizabeth at Burlington. They're going to be locating west of here on the South Service Road. And we invited them to come down. We wanted to welcome them to the community and also have a little conversation with them about the facade, because the design of this building facing on the Queen Elizabeth Highway and some of the future plans that we're working on for the entryway on Ontario Street all need to come together in a very consistent manner. This morning, Mr. Hussein and Mr. Kirkopoulos and I met with Trevor Donegan, who you've heard me speak about. This young man has been raising money for the skate park, but he's also been working on design plans. We invited him in today to talk about the plans that we have that were approved in Council's 2016 budget, that being the choice of location and also the design of the skate park. Trevor was in, and I thought he was talking to two latent skateboarders by the time he got finished with the two adults in the room. He was pretty impressed with their knowledge. Also, I want to remind everyone, if you haven't picked up your community directory, please do that, because we're coming into the spring, fall, and we'll be into the summer program before you know it. And it's a nice, juicy book. It's nice and thick, and there's all kinds of activities for young people going on in the community, for everybody, really. Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you, as I often do, that we live in Lincoln, where everyone strives to be a good neighbor, and where children are encouraged to do their very best. Thank you. Councillors' reports. I'll start with Councillor Thompson. Councillor Foster. We'll go this way, and then we'll go this way.
You're having a tough time with me this evening.
Yeah.
The mayor and I have been hanging out at events too often. Just two quick comments. First of all, on the OBAA Chamber of Commerce event, I always find it interesting after those evenings. We have Lori Love, who's been the MC the last 2 years, and so I came away with two new hashtags, Hot Lincoln again. I'm not sure, Mayor, what that was referring to. And the other one is Herbs Are Sexy. So I was really kind of unsure of that. I did briefly attend the Rotary event as well for Diana Bugis and Tony Van Ness. And just to let you know, Diana Bugis and her husband Bob have been very active within the Rotary Club right from the start. Bob was one of the founding members, and in fact had been at the Grimsby Club and had suggested that we bring a club into the Lincoln area. And of course, Diana has been his partner in this all the way along, and so she got her Paul Harris. And of course, Tony Van Ness was a founding member of the Rotary Club here in town as well, and has been a solid supporter of just about everything that we have done as the Rotary Club. So the only other thing is that I'm just imagining Assad and Mike out doing their tricks with the skateboards. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's always good to have somebody around the table that's got all that meaty background, but these events that we're going to, it's, I don't think there's anything new under the sun, but it is really nice to see people recognized for the work that they do in the community, and it certainly makes for a very nice, to live in such a nice community where people are so active and there's just so many good things happening. Thanks very much for that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to touch quickly on the Niagara Chamber of Commerce event that yourself and Mr. Kirkopoulos and I attended there. Certainly it was well represented by Niagara College, Brock University, and all of a lot of local politicians from different levels, both provincially, federally, and also lower tier. Brad Dogood, the minister, really put forward a message that business is changing so fast today that we have to actually be disruptors in the process and think of new ways of doing business through technology and that sort of thing. He also touched on the fact that the provincial government was launching a Cutting the Red Tape Challenge, and they're working with all levels of government to try and reduce the amount of red tape it takes to do a business in this country, so both federally, provincially, and municipally. So it was a very good good lunch and very interesting conversation for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Timmers?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I just have one announcement. I attended the grand opening of the Village of Hope. They have moved to a new location at 3831 Victoria Avenue. It's quite a large location. They have 2 floors now, and it was really good. There were a lot of people there. It was a really good turnout. So, thank you.
So a new location to find treasures or deposit treasures. Very good. Councillor Brunet?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I'd like to report on our first meeting of the 2016 that we had at the Region of Niagara on March 22nd for the Transportation Steering Committee. Some of the items that were on the agenda, it was a very lengthy meeting. It was about 2.5 hours. Some of the items that we talked about on the agenda were active transportation and subcommittee, in St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, a review of the Niagara Municipal Airports, discussion on the transportation master plan that is currently a hot topic. Also, intermunicipal transit in some of the areas like St. Catharines and Niagara Falls. A proposed new corridor in the East End that would subsequently one day link the 406 through to Port Colborne and into Fort Erie to drive economic development to that end of the region. One of the main items that I would like to report back to this council, there was considerable discussion about this study that is currently going on with regards to the 2 municipal airports. And I guess one could argue, what impact does that have on Lincoln for an airport in Welland and one in Niagara Lake that could arguably be recreational airports. But there is a study that has been undertaken, and the idea is to look at all options of these airports and look at how they're being run currently. And obviously, these airports are being funded by the municipalities in which they take place. So there are 7 municipalities that have a vested interest that are sharing the costs of these airports. Pelham, Port Colborne, Welland, Wainfleet, St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and Niagara Lake. So there's 7 municipalities that have a vested interest that are currently the shareholders in these airports, leaving 5 municipalities: Fort Erie, Grimsby, Lincoln, Pelham, Fort Erie, Grimsby, Lincoln, Fort Erie, Thorold. There's 5 municipalities that currently are not sharing costs, and 7 that are. So there is a study that's been undertaken, and it's quite a quick study. It's going to come back in July. So I can tell you right now that there was considerable discussion amongst mayors that are on this committee, saying we really haven't been brought up to speed on this. So I know there is some meetings that are going to take place with the mayors and the CAOs of the 5 municipalities that currently are not shareholders. So I think this is a real important study that's taking place because obviously there's some severe costs that could be downloaded on the 5 municipalities that currently are not shareholders. So I can tell you that it was considerable discussion, and as municipal councillors that sit on this report, we were given marching orders to make sure we come back to council, to our CAOs and our mayors, to make sure the significance of this and the time frame of July that is coming back to the Transportation Steering Committee. So I think it's something that we need to pay attention to, and it's something that's getting a lot of knowledge amongst the region. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councillor Brunet. And yes, those meetings were discussed at Corporate Services at the region last week. And Mr. Kirkopoulos certainly knows what's at stake. So as soon as we're approached, we'll get on to that, make sure that people are informed. Councillor McPherson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick update on the Beazville Business Improvement Area. We are well into the selection process for the executive director. I mentioned that at the last council meeting that we had planned to put a part-time executive director in place. We ran some interviews last week, and we're running more this week. At this point, we have 4 candidates, which is pretty exciting. And really hoping to have this person in place if all things go well for the April meeting, which is, of course, is the 3rd Thursday in April. And again, the key role here is engaging the membership and being out in the downtown area and while running the day-to-day business of the BIA. So hopefully we'll be able to announce at the next council meeting our selection.
Very good. That's very encouraging. Good to hear. Councillor Njima?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Very good. How nice of you to join us, Councillor Pachariva.
Worship, I
Do
had
you have anything?
yes, I just raced home and changed and put my blue on in support of autism. So, last Thursday was the region's culture committee met. We received the final report of the investment in culture from 2014 and 15. There was $300,000 available to fund projects. Just roughly $13,000 was unspent, but this funding was used to leverage an additional $1.6 million in other sources of funding and $668,000 of in-kind support. It funded 24 projects. The funny thing, though, that there was some discussion around the report when it was received at the Planning and Development Committee, whether to go ahead with the program or not support the ongoing eligibility and participation of local municipalities. Local municipalities are able to apply for this, as are not-for-profits. And we had a very good discussion around the table. I sat this year on that NIC committee, so I was able to provide some insight into a couple of the questions from Councillor Edgar and Councillor Nunziata about how we go about funding. Some of the projects, and in no cases where not-for-profits left out, and we've got to do a better job next year going forward of explaining the scoring matrix that we use to waylay that concern. Also, we received the report for this year's projects. Again, there's $300,000 available. We are going to fund 30, we received 30 applications for approximately $471,000 of funding ask. 28 projects will be funded, 10 of which will receive the full funding. And the funding ranges on the 28 projects from approximately $1,600 to $24,000 each. 6 municipalities will receive funds: Port Colborne, Welland, Niagara Falls, Pelham, West Lincoln, and St. Catharines. The municipality puts in 25% of the funding for the project. And now with Mr. Hussein on board here, I would be more than happy and glad to see an application from the town of Lincoln for next year. Got some ideas that I can help him with, and we can stick handle this project. So, and then on Friday, Councillor Burnett and myself, along with the CEO, Mr. Kirkopoulos, met with Jackie Gervais from the Niagara region about moving forward with a active transportation committee in the town of Lincoln. So we'll keep you updated. We're going to have some meetings. We're going to do an ask of community participation, staff participation. But the exciting part was we've got a framework in place. So We just got to pull a few things together and flip the switch. So it was very encouraging.
Excellent. And I can tell you that there was quite a debate at the region about the Culture Committee. But I will say that Mayor Joyner, who's the chair, he did a sterling job of explaining the process. But the response that I had through the discussion was that every municipality should be partners with every application that goes forward. And then I think that discussion kind of goes out the window, that municipalities are double dipping. They should be part of every application.
If I can, it's kind of a tightrope you walk.
Just a minute. I'm sorry. I should never have done that because I'm permitting discussion, and that's not the point of this. Thank you very much. I'm breaking my own rule. Councillor McMillan, I had to catch myself.
Yes, thank you,
We'll
Madam Mayor.
talk later.
Yes. I'll fill you in.
I had planned to have a public recognition of the Paul Harris Award winners at the Rotary Club, particularly in the case of Diana Bugis, because there is a very special connection between Diana and myself. When I was a classroom teacher years and years and years ago, Diana was a student in school, not in my class, but her sister was in my class. And then when Diana became a teacher and I became the principal, she was a member of my staff and at Senator Gibson School here in Beamsville. So there was, as I said, a very special recognition or connection between Diana and myself. So I wanted to publicly recognize the fact that she did receive this award, and I met her and passed on my congratulations personally to her as well. So thank you very much for that.
Very good. All right. Well, all good things happening, and it's good to see everybody is as active as they are. Let's move on to item number 10, which is correspondence. And we have a letter here from the North Niagara Federation of Agriculture. I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Foster that correspondence from Niagara North Federation of Agriculture dated March 24th, 2016 regarding the moratorium on the sale of road allowances be received as information. Are there any questions or comments to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And just for the information of the audience, this was a letter that came in regarding a matter that was included in the Finance Administration Committee, and it arrived after the meeting. So we're just accepting it tonight. We move on to reports. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rinchima and seconded by Councillor McPherson that the minutes of the Finance and Administration Committee meeting of March 29, 2016, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Any questions to the motion? Pleasure on the motion? Motion is carried. Yes, sorry. Councillor Rinchima.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. The Finance Administration Committee was well attended. There was a lot of staff there. It's about 10 people from staff. And we had some extra councillors come that aren't on the committee, pure out of interest's sake. We had Councillor Timmers, Councillor McPherson, and Councillor McMillan. Thank you for coming out and joining in for that committee. There was a public hearing for our user fees and charges bylaw. That was pretty straightforward. There were some questions about some new fire department fees for inspections and some increases for example, for false alarms. But all of the increases are cost recovery in nature, and there will be some rebates in place for those that upgrade their systems following false alarm calls. Under correspondence, there was some correspondence from Markham and Welland asking for support on an initiative commenced by the municipality of Aurora, advocating for OMB reform. They're asking that the OMB limit its jurisdiction to questions of law or process, and asking that it uphold the decisions of municipalities. Committee asked for more information on that, so that'll be coming back. Then we dealt with the road allowance moratorium that's been in place for a few years. Committee felt comfortable after extensive consideration and public consultation on this matter that Council understands its priorities in making decisions regarding whether to sell, lease, or retain its varied pieces of property that are technically road allowances. Committee wanted to be sure that these priorities are made clear to future councils making these decisions, and also that residents making applications regarding road allowance purchases are clear on the process and the priorities as well. So the CIO will be working with staff to create an education/correspondence piece that will be coming shortly. Committee in the end voted to lift the moratorium subject to Council's ratification tonight and to start entertaining applications again. Then we had some standard business items, the statement of councillors' remunerations, the building permit fee report, the user fees and charges update, the monthly operating budget financial report, and there was nothing alarming in any of that. And then some fire department reports. Committee considered a report recommending holding off on the investments proposed in the 2016 budget for upgrades to Fire Station 1, pending the completion of a business case for alternative fire station needs. Committee agreed that a business case would be helpful at this stage, but that we should be going ahead with the proposed upgrades that we discussed thoroughly during the budget process. Some more things, 3 more items from the fire department. The Niagara Regional Mutual Aid Agreement is something that we participated in for many years to our advantage. The fire marshal upgraded requirements recently and the region followed suit, and we're confirming participation in the reviewed agreement. Also, we currently have an automatic aid agreement with the town of Grimsby that we participated with for a few years. That's worked very well for us. Now the fire department has struck a similar agreement with West Lincoln to help us with response to some of the southern areas of Lincoln. Committee agreed this is a mutual benefit. And finally, with fire department, we're the last municipality in Niagara to have a system in place whereby town employees who wish to serve as volunteer firefighters can leave their jobs to go and assist. Committee agreed we should have this in place as daytime responders are limited because people have day jobs. It's hard to get people out during the day sometimes. It continues to be a need. Committee also asked that a standard decision tree be implemented to avoid any misunderstanding about coming going from one's day job. Lastly, committee accepted the updated property standards bylaw, and then we went into closed session to discuss a pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality related to a road allowance. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, Your Worship. Thank you. Just with respect to a piece of correspondence, and I apologize for missing the meeting. We had a playoff hockey game that night, but there was the piece number 4 from the town of Grimsby, along with the town of Pelham, supporting the City of St. Catharines resolution for Via Rail service. We had talked about that at the last meeting, and then there was a follow-up article in the St. Catharines Standard, talking about the dovetailing in with GO and how these other two had supported that. I thought we did that ourselves in the meeting before, and maybe a good idea too would be, not that our local newspapers do a great job, maybe we should be providing a press release to the St. Catharines Standard. I notice every other municipality is covered in there, no notes on Town of Lincoln Council, so just.
Well, let's deal with the correspondence. Councillor Njima?
So thank you, Councillor Patrieve. I believe it was at another Finance and Administration Committee. We asked for more information on that, and we were going to get something back. Maybe the clerk can respond, or.
Do we have any instructions, Mr. Cole?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe there is a pending report that is forthcoming.
Thank you.
All right, that's fine. And on the other matter, we'll have Mr. Kirkopoulos take your suggestion under advisement. Thank you. All right. Nothing else there, Councillor? No other questions? Okay. We'll move on then. All right. Okay, we have no confirmation of compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, and we'll move on to a motion moved by Councillor Rinjima and seconded by Councillor McMillan that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws: number 2016-23 to authorize the 2016 fees and charges bylaw, number 2016-24 to establish and regulate a fire department, number 2016-25 to authorize the participation of the Lincoln Fire and Rescue and Emergency Services in the Niagara Region Mutual Aid Plan, number 2016-26 to authorize the execution of a fire protection services agreement with the Township of West Lincoln, number 2016-27 property standards bylaw. Your pleasure on the motion. The motion's carried. And carrying on, we have a motion moved by Councillor McMillan, seconded by Councillor Rinjima, that bylaws number 2016-23, -24, -25, -26, and -27 read a first time, be now read a second and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaws. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion's carried. Are there any notice of motion? There being none, are there any announcements? Okay, Councillor Rinjima, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I was not here for a council meeting, I think it was March 21st, when it was decided who was going to go to OSUM. I would like to go to OSUM. And I talked to Mr. Spadoni today about that, so I believe that it's not too late for me to be registered, and I would like to attend.
Okay, if we could talk about that outside of the meeting, I'd be happy to have that conversation with you.
Sure.
Some other things have come up, so sure, we can have that. I guess we do need, do we need direction, or do we don't need a formal motion, or we do need a formal motion? Yes, the clerk is writing a motion, so we'll have that, and then I'll have a conversation with you about my own timing, which has changed.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, OSUM is the Ontario Small Urban Municipalities Conference, and it's in Goderich this year. And Councillor Foster is actually a member of the executive, and it's a very good organization for us to belong to because it provides us with access to all kinds of information on the way other municipalities of our size are doing their business, and there's some excellent standards, high standards work that's being presented to us at these conferences. I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that Councillor Rinjima be authorized to attend the 2016 OSUM with usual expenses to apply. Any questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Very good, thank you. Councillor Brunet, oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. It's Councillor Foster, Councillor Brunet, and Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. I want to go back to the discussion briefly that was brought up by Councillor Brunet coming from the Transportation Committee and the issue around airports. And, you know, one of the problems that we have within the region of Niagara is the fact that the town of Lincoln, the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, the town of Grimsby, and the town of Pelham are all, we will refer to them as have municipalities. And what I mean by that is that the average price of homes is higher than provincial average within all of these communities. What this means is that this skews things on a regional basis. So in other words, we end up on a per capita basis paying more for regional services than are paid for elsewhere within Niagara region. So what does this mean? Well, because they hire so many regional police officers to look after the casinos and the hotels in Niagara Falls, we actually unfavorably pay for that, okay? And there are other situations within the Niagara region that we have a similar type of a thing. But this directly affects things like our OMPF grants because of the fact that they were higher than provincial. And we seem to be having difficulties from a provincial funding point of view of getting grants towards some of the infrastructure that we want developed because our value is higher. So now again, Niagara region and / the other municipalities that are involved with this are taking a look at this new source of income for things such as airports and saying, gee, it would be nice to tap into that to help pay for things. So I really do think that we're going to have to be extremely cautious as we're going along with this, and as it would be, I think it would be worthwhile through to the CAO and perhaps his direction, but I'd really like to know what we can or can't do with these types of things as we're going along. We're a lower tier municipality, but we do have essentially public transportation is in our hands until Niagara region takes it away from us. But it's not going to go away from us unless we decide that. These other types of things where they're imposing things over top of us or potentially doing that, where do we stand and what can we say about this? Because this is, as he pointed out in his conversation, this is not going to be insignificant. These are big money losers. I mean, and what does our municipality deal with? We deal with Hamilton Airport, and we deal with Buffalo Airport, and we deal with Toronto Airport. We are not flying out of St. Catharines. We're not flying out of Welland. So there's some real questions as to whether or not this is in the interest of our municipality. So through you, Madam Mayor, if that makes sense, I think it would be worthwhile perhaps at one of our next finance and admin meetings to have a good discussion about this, or perhaps economic development as well. But because once again, we see Niagara region with a big baseball bat sitting over top of us saying, gee, we'd like to wring more money out of you, and I don't think it's fair to the people of our municipality. So, thank you.
All good points. And do you have any response, Mr. Kokopoulos, at this time?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Staff can prepare a report for the next Finance and Admin Committee, providing an overview, I think, of some of the next steps that are coming and then what else is within our control in terms of what we can do to provide a stronger position on behalf of the municipality.
Very good. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Just under announcements, but a perfect segue that Councillor Foster leads me into was, you know, last year in the late fall, we all remember we were getting a number of letters and correspondence from people that live in the municipality about municipal transit. So at that time, when John Nicol was our interim CAO, the mayor and I and John had a meeting, and I was prepared to bring a motion with regards to municipal transit in Lincoln. And at that time decided with everything that was going on with GO and things that were imminent that we would hold off. But I can tell you that Tony Quirk, who's the chair of regional transportation, is really pushing some sort of municipal transit at this end. So certainly the mayor is very well aware that that Grimsby and West Lincoln are wanting to move forward on this, and they're looking at Lincoln to say, where are you guys sitting on this? So with that in mind, the town of Grimsby is having a symposium with regards to local transit on April 21st. It's taking place at the Grimsby Town Hall from 7 to 9 p.m. They're bringing a couple of guest speakers in from the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury. And I think it would be prudent that a number of us, or all of us, or whoever can attend, would be there to just kind of get a little bit of a brief insight into how Grimsby is looking at attacking this transit investigation committee. So again, any contact information or any other information anyone's looking for, they can contact Nancy Simon, nsimon@grimsby.ca for additional information. And again, that's Thursday, April 21st at the Grimsby Town Hall from 7 to 9 p.m. Thank you.
That's great, and that information now is available in the public realm, so if there's people in the community that want to attend, it's an open meeting. Maybe you could put that in the newspaper article. Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you, Councillor Brunet. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to mention that we have a public information session for the Jordan Village improvements on April 12th from 6 to 8:30 down at the Jordan Fire Hall. So hopefully folks can come out and take a look and see what we're up to down there. So just wanted that to get out there so that folks knew about it, and hopefully that'll be put in the local paper as well.
Very good. And this has been an outstanding matter for 2 or 3 years now, I think. I don't think I'm overstating that. So I would think that public interest would be quite high at this point. Anyone else? Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Just quickly, I just want to send out kudos to Dave Graham and the whole team at Public Works for putting out a document on the 2016 Road Infrastructure Improvement Program. It's a little 8-piece brochure that tells you everything you want to know about road resurfacing and rehabilitation, and also goes into what projects are planned for 2016. So it's a very nice communication piece that you can pick up at the Fleming Center, I believe. It's also on our website, but very, very nice piece. When we were all out knocking on doors in late 2014, this was a key item for us all, and to have this all in one little document is a really nice thing for the resident to pick up. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for those comments. We were pretty impressed at infrastructure for sure. It was very, very, very complete. Very good. No other hands. All right, we'll move on then. We have a closed session this evening. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Rinchima, that council adjourn to closed session in order to address personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, matters pertaining to vacancies on the Public Library Board and on the Municipal Heritage Committee. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And we'll be going into the Beamsville room. Thank you.